Hi, I'm Rahul Ahluwalia. I'm the first Secretary for Financial Services at the British High Commission. I'm based in Mumbai, and it's a pleasure to be with you today for FinTech 2021, which is an international virtual conference hosted by FinBlue, the FinTech Center of Excellence by STPI Chennai, in partnership with ELCOT and TIE Chennai. And we're very pleased to have this session today. It's about the UK-India FinTech corridor and how we're having an impact on the ground here in India, and as TIE's ambition is to promote entrepreneurship, how two relatively kind of startup companies are performing on their journeys in India. So the UK and India, why do we care about FinTech? Well, finance and technology are two of the UK government's biggest priorities in India, and FinTech brings them together. There is very strong political commitment. Both prime ministers have stood jointly at their previous summit to announce a partnership on FinTech, and mentorship. We find is really, really important because capital flows between the two countries are very strong. But one of the key ingredients is mentorship and sharing experiences between experts in both countries. I think is incredibly important to see that corridor flourish. COVID has made FinTech even more important, financial inclusion most importantly, but also credit flow and insurance. FinTech is much, much more important because of COVID. And I think this today's session really crystallizes why FinTech is important in both directions, because the UK as well has the world-leading FinTech center, and India's Aadhaar system has really amazed the world and presents huge opportunities for international business and domestic business to serve that very important population. And so I'm delighted to be here today with a couple of people who are much more expert at FinTech than I am. And they both, as I said, represent very interesting, exciting, fast-growing companies. So we have Shrikant Tiwari, who is a partner of clients and markets at Valuefy. And I'll let him introduce himself in a minute. And we have Guilherme Mota, who's head of operations for SalaryFits India. And both of them are doing very interesting work, but I'll let them tell you about themselves and about their journeys in the UK-India FinTech corridor when they introduce themselves. Should we go with Shrikant first?
Okay, so thank you, Rahul, for providing this opportunity to speak about and participate in this event. Let me start by telling you what Valuefy do, and also then highlight what is experience so far being UK and how we are looking at this market and all the support which you and your team is giving us. So Valuefy is a 10-year-old FinTech. We work with banks, private banks, and wealth managers. In India and in Asia, we've created a very niche space for ourselves where we serve wealth managers and private banks with a disruptive technology. And it all started 2 years ago when we looked at what should we choose as a base location for our international expansion, because at that time we were getting a very good response from various other markets. And that's where we decided to explore, and we looked at a couple of options right from London, Switzerland, and Singapore. What we realized that, London, and then incidentally, we met somebody from the British High Commission, and then London and partners, and then everything is transpired. We are looking at London as a central location for our international expansion. And that is because of a few reasons. We see that being a great financial sector, there is a lot of disruption in the market. There is a great environment when it comes to IPR. And in the last 1 year or so, since we started working with our clients in London, some of the connections which UK High Commission and London partner provided us, we are able to establish the business, the start of the business. We put the subsidiary almost 8 months ago, and we are right now, as we speak, at a point of inflection where we've onboarded 5 to 10 clients, and we're looking ahead for a bigger business next year. So that's about Valuefy in short.
Thank you very much, Shrikant. Very interesting. Should we go to Guy, and you can tell us a bit about SalaryFits?
Thank you very much, Rahul. Thank you, Shrikant, for sharing this panel with us. And of course, thank you, the IT guys, for inviting SalaryFits for being part of this seminar. So SalaryFits, and it was a really good point that Shrikant was highlighting of choosing London, choosing UK as an international hub for its company, because in a way it happens similar to SalaryFits. So SalaryFits is originally a Brazilian company, or I would say our parent company is originally from Brazil. So we have been doing that in Brazil for the last 20 years, working with the main banks in Brazil and some of them in Europe as well. And 4 to 5 years ago, we have decided to have London as our international hub, as our international headquarters, because we know how important it would be for growing internationally our operations on the other 7 countries that we are right now. And not only that, of course, having this environment or this really important FinTech and developed FinTech environment, but also supporting as well in our discussions with potential investors or raising funds. And not taking long, basically SalaryFits, we are a FinTech / HR tech company that will promote on one side different financial providers, connecting them to the payroll of entities for promoting better financial benefits to its employees. So we are a B2B2C platform and working mainly with banks and different financial providers.
Thank you, Guy. That's very interesting. And it's really great to hear about your journey, not just from the UK to India, but from Brazil to the UK to India. And I think, if I can transpose that onto what Valuefy is doing, perhaps you're looking to do something similar, go from India to the UK and have that as a platform to then expand internationally, and that speaks to the the stellar fintech environment in London, and I think if I can just dwell a bit, what do you see as the strengths of London in the fintech landscape as a platform, and kind of what attracted you to London, Shrikant?
Well, see, for us, core of our business is wealth tech. And if you look at the wealth business for the last 30 years, it's been dominated by a few markets. And when I say dominance, it's come from various angles. One is access to that banking system, which is stable, giving the regulatory environment for this business to thrive, and then giving a forward-looking ecosystem so for wealth management business to grow and coin new business model. Now, when we combine all of that, and then in all of these 3 things, the key for us was where to base our business, where we get access to these things, credibility for an organization to create and strength. So we saw that, if you look at Dubai, if you look at Swiss market, if you look at European market, if you look at Singapore market, which are the core offshore wealth markets in Asia and Europe, you see most of them are being inspired by the banking, the regulation environment from London. So the whole thing started when I visited DIFC and I met some clients, and everybody was talking about we function the way you would function in London. We are completely governed by British laws. So we wanted a base. We wanted a base where we are in an ecosystem where we are between those regulations, things happening in terms of new business model, so that we can place our technology. So that's where London came into the picture. And secondly, definitely, we see a very good Indian in London. We have many connections. We see a significant amount of Indians contributing versus, let's say, a Swiss or a Zurich market. Combining all that as a lot of access through London and partners, we were given a good guidance. We were introduced to right set of companies to understand what's the status of IPR laws, what is the status of various tax laws, etc. So overall, when we compared, we just left with a couple of choices. That was Singapore, London, and Dubai, and we chose London.
Excellent, thank you very much, and that's a kind of resounding endorsement. Guy, from your experience at SalaryFits, is there anything you want to add to that, or was it a kind of a broadly a similar thought process?
Yeah, I totally agree with Shrikant. And again, we had no doubt when we started to plan to grow internationally with our spin-off concept of a established company in Brazil, that the UK market will be a strategic one for growing across Europe, and of course with its influence in Asia as well. And London was also part of our decision when we started to think about India. We know that, like as Shrikant was saying, that there is a huge bridge and connections and business, not only in the fintech sector, but overall all the other markets. And of course, it was also helping our entrance in Indian market.
Thank you, Guy. As a member of the Indian diaspora in the UK, I'm very familiar with those really strong linkages between people, capital, technology, ideas, and yeah, they are very strong. And it's what we call the living bridge. In fact, Prime Minister Modi coined that term in one of his speeches. So it's what we call the living bridge, and it's something that really has a deep impact not just on society and culture, but also business. And that's great to hear that that's part of your decision making. Coming back to India, where we all are right now, what do you see as the key opportunities that you're trying to harness in India, and what do you think the UK has to offer in those spaces? And from your experience running companies, when you bring ideas over from the UK and bring people and technology, all those things, what is it that we can add value to, in India? Should we go to Guy first on that one?
Great, thank you, Rahul. Particularly in our case of SalaryFits, that we are working as a fintech/HR tech company, of course, there is a really value point when you're bringing financial support and financial technology from UK as well, and also from other markets that we have already proved our concept over there. And I believe that our main challenge in India right now is also the HR fraternity and discussing more with the other big point of our business. So showing now in India, and we have been doing that for the last 3 years, of course, working on spreading the word of our concept, but showing India for the Indian companies how it's important to be supporting financially as well its employees. So like right now, facing the COVID situation, working from home, all these scenarios that we are facing right now all around the world, showing the companies here how it's important being supporting its employees, and of course, more than that, financial supporting them as well. I think that would be something that maybe in India we will spend a bit more time for showing how it's different in UK and at least in the Western countries.
Thank you. Shrikant, any thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, I think in order for, if I see it from a perspective of an entrepreneur looking to build a large business, and how the whole association of London, India, the governments, the whole concept, what you just said, and bridge can be extended. I think bringing a mentorship wherein you bring unique sets, skill sets into a single box, wherein there could be an access of intellectual capital, navigation, into a single cell can be very helpful. So if I say, so far our experience has been amazing. It's fantastic that the way London partners and the associated agencies have helped us. But now when we have become a growth company, the important point is to bring easy access to capital, having mentorship, which brings some of the Indian companies and Indian talent together with some of the London or let's say UK based specifics. So as of today, we need a lot of help in navigating through regulations. If there is a direct access to that, the whole cycle time to navigate and circumvent around the regulation when it comes to product can be shortened. There could also be a way to bring some of the best London companies, which are good in, let's say, local onboarding, local regulation, RegTech companies, FinTech, because some of these things are very correlated, So bringing a group of companies from London and from India who are into a similar space and giving them a springboard of where they can really connect on a very real problem. That's where I think it can be a game changer to build the next technology companies. I think India is going to be the next software capital of the world. And when I say software, I say B2B software. And you can't take away the maturity and the understanding of regulation and banking from the markets like London. If we combine these two and make available an ecosystem where there are companies, there are experts from regulatory fields, there are experts to navigate through the new regulations or let's say access to capital, ideas, etc. This can reduce few years from the company like us, and that can be game changing for us.
Thank you. Those are all really interesting points that you make there, and good ideas for us to follow up on. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have an existing FinTech Awards mentorship program that runs, and we have the best and brightest kind of FinTech startups from both countries, and an excellent roster of mentors as well. And we're aiming to do that. But obviously, there's always more we can do in that space. I want to pick up on something that you said, Shrikant, about the regulatory environment. Obviously, you said the London regulatory environment very conducive. In your view, how's your experience of working in the Indian regulatory environment, and what are some of the things specifically that there is room for kind of fruitful engagement between the two countries? If I come back to you, Shrikant, first, and then I come to Guy after.
Okay, so let me talk from the perspective of the regulatory environment, especially which impacts the banking and associated services. In India, we're far behind when it comes to real execution of these from a perspective that the consumer gets the value. Second, the whole ecosystem. There are multiple agencies in India. There is SEBI, there is IRDA for the insurance side of things. There are PFRDA for the pension side of things. But then when it comes to financial advice, it's mostly SEBI which is driving things, and most of them work in a very isolated way. What I've seen in London, where there is a very strong guideline, a very deep understanding of how financial advice is delivered, and it protects the interest of both consumer and the financial advisor. And that's where it becomes easier for companies like us to create products which connect the financial advisor, banks, and customer into one box. That's what a fintech company does, right? So in India, it's the whole environment is very much like a law. It's not really detailed out in practice with very tangible experience and tangible modularities developed for all of these players to be working into one. So I think what DIFC is done with themselves consuming, I think, the regulatory environment and the whole experience from London and putting it in India and creating the entire DIFC where we see almost on a daily basis new organizations are getting started. That's what India should do, ideally, by learning from the banking experience and then probably localizing it for India, wherein the huge, because India is a good market, it's a big market, and it's different, but then bringing that to India and localizing it, and that, I think that's where the responsibility of both the government collaboration goes, to make it really possible in India for an organization like us as well.
Great, thanks Shrikant, that's really interesting. Guy, any reflections on that?
No, again, just like agreeing with Shrikant, and I believe just adding on my perception of being a foreign living here in India, I think that the financial ecosystem here in India has been working quite comfortably with the huge market that we have here. Of course, there is no way to deny the potential of like the market in India. And being comfortable with that, they were like creating a lack of space for this new fintech wave that's happening right now in India. So the banks here, the government as well, they are starting to see this transformation. Of course, they are working and running for making this change as well. But I think that like it was a mistake of like being comfortable with this huge market and potential market that we have, and like neglecting the low cost or the base of the pyramid here in India, and offering sustainable products to all these individuals.
Thank you, Guy. And I completely agree. I think financial inclusion is absolutely central to India's development, and that's something that we're very focused on as well. I'm conscious that we've just got a few minutes left. It's India's budget this week, on the 1st of Feb in a few days. Obviously, post-COVID, economic growth is high on the agenda. FinTech, very important for that. If I can ask you both, what's on your wish list for the budget in terms of promoting FinTech, financial inclusion, and the sort of the banking sector more generally, and I guess asset management from your perspective, Shrikant, and Guy, your perspective as well. Shrikant, very briefly.
Yeah, so I think I would expect and would really be delighted if Prime Minister Modi continues on what he's doing for the last couple of years in budgets, which is creating bigger pool for the salaried employees to push giving them more opportunities to park their money into asset management, wealth management, and financial products, because that's the way to financial inclusion and financial security for the world. So he's been positive on giving those rooms through tax rebates, tax benefits, to various kind of schemes for various types. I think if we can continue on that, that will be a great push as more and more people get under the inclusion of financial investments.
And just adding
Thank you, Enki.
I just would say that would be great seeing that like not really centralized under the government umbrella, and like bring more power to other institutions and companies as well for being part of this budget and like all the other financial support that we are seeing here in India right now.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very, very much. We'll all watch that very closely then. So I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much, Guy and Shrikant, for joining me on this panel today. And thank you also to FinBlue, the FinTech Center of Excellence, STPI, and Thai Chennai for the opportunity to have this discussion at FinTeract 2021. And wish you all a very good rest of the year. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you,
guys.